For centuries, it was the absolute symbol of Roman power, a walking wall of wood and steel that conquered an entire empire. But then, right at the peak of its success, Rome's most famous weapon, it just vanished. This isn't just a random piece of trivia, it's a genuine historical mystery, and today we're going to solve it.
First, you've got to understand just how dominant this shield really was. The rectangular scutum wasn't just another piece of gear, it was the bedrock of Roman military doctrine for over 700 years. Think about that. From the late Republic all the way through the golden age of the Empire, this shield was on the front line of pretty much every major Roman victory.
And here it is. This is a beautiful reconstruction of the only complete scutum ever discovered. And look closely at it. This thing wasn't just a flat plank of wood. Oh no, it was a sophisticated, semi-cylindrical piece of engineering, made from 3 layers of plywood glued and pressed together. That curve was a genius design. It was perfect for deflecting blows and for locking together to create the legendary testudo, that unstoppable tortoise formation.
Which brings us to the big question, right? If this shield was so advanced, so effective, and so successful for so long, why in the world would the most practical and ruthless army in history just get rid of it? It makes no sense on the surface, but the clues are there if you know where to look. So let's start our investigation by looking at the evidence itself. The trail starts in the late 3rd century AD when we see the iconic rectangle starting to be replaced all across the empire by oval and round shields. And yeah, this slide just lays it out perfectly. On the left, you've got the classic rectangular scutum we all know and love. But on the right, in art and carvings from the later empire, you see soldiers carrying these oval and round shields. The change is undeniable. So the question is, why? Okay, clue number 1, and this is a big one. It's not about a change within the Roman army, but a change in its enemies. The entire nature of war was shifting under their feet. You see, the scutum was a specialist's tool. It was designed for those massive, head-on, grinding battles between 2 heavy infantry lines. But by the 3rd century, Rome was facing completely new kinds of threats. We're talking fast-moving horsemen from the east, and Germanic warbands who relied on lightning-fast raids and hit-and-run tactics. These guys refused to just line up and have a shoving match where the scutum was king. So what do? You adapt. Roman tactics had to get more flexible. They started moving away from that heavy, almost static testudo formation towards a lighter, more mobile shield wall, like you see here. This new way of fighting needed soldiers who could move quickly and react to threats from all sides. A lighter, easier-to-handle oval shield was just a much better fit for this new reality. Now for clue number 2. It wasn't just the enemy that was different. The Roman soldier's own weapons were evolving, and that had a huge knock-on effect for the rest of his gear. For centuries, the legionary's best friend was the gladius, a short sword perfect for quick, deadly stabs from the safety of that huge rectangular shield. But it was slowly replaced by the spatha, a much longer sword. And you can't just stab with the spatha. It's a cut-and-thrust weapon. You need room to swing it, to slash with it. Now just imagine trying to wield one of these long swords while you're also wrestling with a big, bulky, rectangular shield. It would be incredibly clumsy, right? A rounder, lighter shield gave you the freedom of movement you needed to really use that spatha or the thrusting spears that were also becoming more common. The weapon changed, and the shield just had to change with it. Our third clue is maybe the most practical one of all. You know what they say, follow the money. Arming an entire empire is unbelievably expensive, and by the 3rd century, Rome was in some serious financial trouble. And this table really shows you the difference in manufacturing. That rectangular scutum was a complex piece of kit. We're talking 3 layers of wood, steamed and pressed into that perfect curve. It took a lot of resources and a lot of skilled man-hours. The oval shield, on the other hand, often just made of simple, solid planks. It was way cheaper and way faster to make. This became absolutely critical during the 3rd century crisis. This was a 50-year period of constant civil war, invasions, and total economic collapse. The empire's supply system was stretched to the breaking point. It simply couldn't keep up with mass-producing expensive, complicated equipment like the scutum. So the simpler, cheaper oval shield wasn't just a tactical choice, it was an economic necessity. So we've got our clues lining up. New enemies, new weapons, and economic problems. But before we reach a final verdict, we have to deal with a really common myth. This is the idea that the shield changed just because the army became more barbarian. This is the old, outdated theory you might have heard. It suggests that as more non-Romans joined the army, they just brought their own barbarian gear with them, and that classic Roman discipline and equipment just sort of faded away. It paints this picture of decline and decay. But the evidence just doesn't support that. The Roman state, through its own state-run factories, was still making and issuing this equipment. This wasn't a cultural takeover, it was a series of deliberate, strategic decisions managed by the Roman military. They were just continuing their long tradition of adapting to new realities on the ground.
So that brings us to our final verdict. The disappearance of the Scutum wasn't a sign that Rome was in decline. Actually, it was a testament to its greatest strength, its incredible ability to adapt.
In fact, if you look at the whole timeline of Roman history, you see the rectangular shield was just one phase in a long line of evolution. The Romans started with round shields, they adopted the rectangle when it suited their needs, and then they transitioned back to ovals and rounds when the situation changed again. It's a pattern.
So there was no single killer reason for the change. It was really a perfect storm. The battlefield changed, and you needed more mobile soldiers. The soldiers' own weapons changed, and you needed more freedom of movement. And the economy tanked, so you needed cheaper, easier to produce gear. All of these forces hit at the exact same time.
And this is probably the most important thing to take away from all this. For Rome, adopting and adapting technology from others wasn't a sign of weakness at all. It was the very core of their military genius. This constant evolution wasn't barbarization, it was Romanization. It's one of the main reasons they dominated for so incredibly long. And the story doesn't even end there. That late Roman oval shield didn't just vanish. It kept evolving, eventually becoming the teardrop or kite shield that we always associate with the knights of the Middle Ages. Its legacy lived on for centuries.
So, the story of the vanishing Roman shield leaves us with one final thought. What truly makes a weapon great? Is it one that's perfect for a single moment in time? Or is it one that's wise enough to know exactly when it's time to evolve?